My girlfriend was sobbing, telling me she felt insecure. She said that to get married, her name had to be on the deeds to all 5 of my New York City condos. I smiled and agreed on the spot. I even offered to sign them all over to her completely. She didn't know that just yesterday, I'd used those 5 properties as collateral for a $20 million loan. The day we got the marriage license, she filed for divorce. Later, staring at the court summons for $20 million in debt, her mind simply broke. The man in the mirror was me, but it wasn't. It was a 25-year-old's face, still holding a trace of boyishness, but the eyes held a dead calm that didn't belong to someone that young. I raised a hand, touching the cold surface of the glass. The chill felt real. I was really back to the day before Vanessa first asked me to put her name on the deeds. The scenes from my past life were like a branding iron seared into my brain. Vanessa crying a river of tears, talking about how insecure she felt, how if I truly loved her, I'd give her that security. My foolish past self, so drunk on love, agreed without a moment's hesitation. We went to the city clerk's office, got the license, and I dutifully signed her name onto the deeds of all 5 properties. Those condos were my parents' life savings, everything they'd gotten from the sale of their business and years of hard work. I thought it was the beginning of our perfect life together. The very next day, she filed for divorce. With the property split down the middle, she walked away with assets worth millions and vanished without a trace. The shock was too much for my father. He had a massive heart attack and died on the way to the hospital. My mother, the day after his funeral, jumped from the roof of the one small apartment we had left. In the span of a month, my family was gone. My life was destroyed. I knelt before my parents' graves, an empty cavity in my chest filled with nothing but boundless regret and a cold, hard hatred. In the end, I set fire to the apartment that was filled with so many fake memories. I closed my eyes as the flames consumed everything. When I opened them again, I was here. My phone screen lit up. A new message from Vanessa. Hey babe, got a surprise for you tomorrow. Last time I saw that message, I spent the whole day giddy with anticipation. Now it just made my stomach churn with nausea. A surprise. Oh yeah, it was one hell of a surprise. I deleted the message and dialed my dad's number. The familiar, slightly impatient voice came through the line. Devin, what? You need money again? My eyes instantly welled up. I sniffled hard, forcing the emotion back down, and said in the steadiest voice I could manage, Dad, I just miss you guys. There was a pause on the other end. Did you get into some kind of trouble? No, I just miss you. I'm coming home for dinner tomorrow. All right, I'll have your mother make her pot roast. My dad's voice softened. After I hung up, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I covered my face and tears streamed through my fingers. Mom, Dad, this time I won't let anyone hurt you. I will protect what's ours with everything I have. As for Vanessa, I wiped my tears away. The dead calm in my eyes was replaced by a burning fire. You want security? You want my condos? Fine. I'll give them to you. I'll give you everything. Not only will I let you take possession of these 5 beautiful properties completely unaware of the truth, I'll also saddle you with a debt so crushing you'll never escape it. This time I'll make you wish you were never born. The next day, I showed up at the coffee shop 30 minutes late on purpose. When I pushed the door open, Vanessa was sitting by the window, stirring her latte with a perfectly crafted look of anxious disappointment on her face. The second she saw me, her eyes went red. Devin, you're finally here. I thought you'd stood me up. She threw herself into my arms, her body trembling slightly like a frightened little bird. Last time, I'd fallen for this act completely. It made me feel so protective, so willing to give her anything she wanted. But now, holding her soft body against mine, all I felt was a cold, desolate emptiness. I patted her back gently, speaking in the warmest voice I could muster. Hey, don't be silly. The traffic was just brutal. She snuggled against my chest before pulling back, looking up at me with her meticulously made-up face. Devin, we've been together for 3 years. My parents keep asking when we're going to get married. Here we go. Showtime. I put on a hesitant expression. Vanessa, I thought we agreed to wait another couple of years. I really want to focus on my career right now. Tears immediately welled up in Vanessa's eyes, spilling over like pearls from a broken string. Your career? What career do you need? You have 5 condos in New York City. The rent alone is enough for us to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. Her voice cracked. Devin, do you not love me anymore? Is that why you don't want to marry me? She started crying uncontrollably, loud enough to make people at other tables turn and stare. I played my part, looking flustered and helpless. No, Vanessa, of course I love you. Then why won't you marry me? She accused. I know why. You think I'm not good enough for you. I'm not from a wealthy family. I didn't grow up here. You're afraid I'm just after your property. I'm not, I protested, just like I did the first time. Yes, you are. She sobbed even harder. Devin, I love you. I don't want anything else, but I just don't feel secure. She grabbed my hand, her tear-filled eyes locked on mine. Just put my name on the deeds, okay? Think of it as a safety net, something to make me feel secure. Once we're married, what's yours is mine anyway, right? It doesn't even make a difference. I remained silent, letting the same foolish conflict and hesitation play across my face. Inside, I was laughing. Your acting is still so clumsy, Vanessa. Your greed is practically spilling out of your eyes. Sensing my hesitation, she went for the kill. Devin, if you won't do it, then I think we should break up. I can't live like this, constantly worrying. She made a show of standing up to leave. I shot up and pulled her back, wrapping her in a tight embrace. Don't go, I said, my voice trembling. I'll do it. I'll do anything you want. Vanessa's body went rigid in my arms for a split second. Then she hugged me back fiercely, her voice thick with a joy she couldn't contain. Really, Devin? You really mean it? Yes, of course I do. I cupped her face, looking deep into her eyes. I'd do anything for you. But, I paused. Vanessa's body tensed up again. But what? But just adding your name, I don't think that's enough, I said slowly, watching her. Vanessa, to prove how much I love you, I've decided. I'm going to sign all 5 condos over to you. They'll be in your name only. Vanessa was completely stunned. Her mouth hung open as if she'd just heard me speaking another language. Devin, what? What are you saying? I'm saying I'm giving you the condos, all of them, I repeated, my tone sincere, almost feverish. I want the whole world to know that for the woman I love, Devin Hartley would give up everything. An incredible light burst forth in Vanessa's eyes. It wasn't love. It wasn't gratitude. It was the naked, raw lust for unimaginable wealth. Perfect. The fish was on the hook. The first step of my plan required capital, a lot of it. $20 million in cash isn't easy to come by. The mortgage process with a major bank is slow, bureaucratic, and they would never approve a loan-to-value ratio anywhere near what I needed. My memory of the last life told me that in the next 3 years, New York real estate was going to explode in value, especially the pre-war condos I owned in prime Manhattan locations. But a bank appraiser wouldn't care about my prophecy. I needed a different kind of tool and a much bolder partner. I spent 2 days locked in my home office, drawing on my reborn memory. I created an exhaustively detailed Manhattan core real estate investment analysis with a 3-year outlook. In it, I used data accurate to 2 decimal points to project the impact of upcoming zoning changes, population influx, and shifts in school district policies. Every piece of analysis pointed to one conclusion: the 5 properties in my name had a potential value far exceeding their current market appraisal. To anyone else, the report would look like a fantasy. For me, it was just transcribing history. I took the report and first met with loan managers from several large commercial banks. As expected, they looked at me like I was insane. Mr. Hartley, your projections are ambitious, but this doesn't meet our risk management criteria. You want to borrow $20 million against a $10 million portfolio? That's absurd. I didn't waste time arguing. I knew the big conservative banks weren't my target. My targets were the private credit firms and investment syndicates that operated in the gray areas, the ones who lived for high-risk, high-reward plays. Through a few back channels, I got a meeting with a man known in the industry only as the Shark. His real name was Marcus Brennan. Marcus was in his 50s, balding on top with a ring of gray hair, and wore thin-rimmed glasses that made him look like an accountant. He had a disarming smile, but the business he was in was anything but disarming: high-interest loans, venture capital, distressed assets. If there was money to be made, he was there. I met him in a private back room of an old-school Italian restaurant in Little Italy. I slid the report across the table. "Marcus, I'll cut to the chase. I need $20 million. I'm putting my 5 Manhattan condos up as collateral." Marcus slowly stirred his espresso, not even bothering to look up. "You got a big appetite, kid. You know how I operate. I dole out higher interest than a bank and much stricter terms." "I do," I answered calmly. He finally looked up, sizing me up with a flicker of surprise. "You know that, and you still came to me. You want to borrow $20 million on $10 million of assets. You expect me to share this little daydream of yours?" I didn't say a word. I just tapped the report. "Read this first. Then we can talk about daydreams." Marcus picked up the report, a dismissive smirk on his face, but as he read, the smirk slowly vanished. His finger tapped on a few key data points. His brow furrowed in concentration. 30 minutes later, he put the report down. His eyes were sharp, predatory. "Where did you get these numbers?" "Marcus, you're a man who understands the bottom line. You know that the what is more important than the how," I said, taking a sip of water. "All you have to decide is whether the future in that report is worth a bet." The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft tap-tap-tap of Marcus's finger on the dark wood of the table. He'd seen more con artists than I'd had hot dinners, but he'd also built his empire on a killer instinct and the guts to take risks others wouldn't. My report was too perfect. The data was too clean, the logic too seamless. Its perfection was what made it seem so unbelievable. But what if? What if it was real? A $20 million principal for a potential return of $60 or $80 million. For a shark like him, the bait was irresistible. Finally, he spoke. $20 million, it's doable, but my rate is 20% APR, and I need you to sign a personal guarantee with an unlimited liability clause. "No problem," I agreed without hesitation. "You're not afraid you'll default and I'll have you swimming with the fishes?" he asked, his eyes narrowing, searching for any sign of fear. I smiled. "Marcus, if I had the guts to walk in here, you can be damn sure I have a way to walk out." My way out, of course, was the fact that this debt would soon have a new owner, one much more deserving. The deal with Marcus came together surprisingly fast. He brought in 2 other private investors from his network to syndicate the loan and spread the risk. For them, the worst-case scenario was foreclosing on 5 prime Manhattan condos. They'd take a loss, but it was manageable. But if my prophecy came true, the payday would be legendary. Gambling was the air they breathed. The day we signed the papers, Marcus clapped me on the shoulder, his smile filled with hidden meaning. "Devin, I admire your balls. I hope this works out for both of us." "It will, Marcus. You can count on it." Within 3 days, $20 million was wired into my personal account. Staring at the long string of zeros in my banking app, I felt no excitement. This money was molten lava. It was the ammunition for my revenge and the dirt for the grave I was digging for Vanessa and her greedy family. The next step was to move the money, making it untraceable. I couldn't leave any domestic trail. I contacted a private bank in Switzerland and, through anonymous online channels, began purchasing large amounts of Bitcoin. I broke the $20 million down into hundreds of smaller transactions, using different payment platforms to convert the funds to various foreign currencies. Then, using those currencies on multiple crypto exchanges, I bought Bitcoin in staggered, anonymous batches. The entire process was like weaving a vast invisible net. Each transaction was a single, insignificant thread that ultimately led to dozens of anonymous digital wallets I had set up overseas. The final step was to consolidate all the Bitcoin from these wallets into a single offline hardware wallet. It was a device the size of a USB drive, accessible only with a physical key and an impossibly complex passphrase. When the last transaction confirmed, I let out a long, slow breath. It was done. As of now, that $20 million had effectively vanished from the conventional financial world. It existed only on this small device, completely disconnected from my name and from the 5 properties that had secured it. With everything in place, I called Vanessa. Her voice on the other end was a mix of impatience and barely suppressed excitement. "Devin, how are things going? My parents have been asking about it nonstop." "Vanessa, relax," I said, my tone weary but doting. "I've already scheduled the closing with the title company. We'll go tomorrow morning and sign all the paperwork for real." Her voice shot up an octave. "Really?" "Of course, but I'd like your parents to come with us to witness the moment." "Yes, of course. I'll tell them right now." Hanging up, I could picture the scene on the other end, the 3 of them exploding with joy. In their eyes, I was the goose that had laid the golden egg, already cooked and served on a platter. They had no idea what awaited them tomorrow wasn't a feast. It was a slaughter, and I was the one holding the knife. The next day, I drove to pick up Vanessa and her parents. Vanessa was dressed to the nines in a new designer dress, her makeup flawless, as if she were heading to the Oscars. Her parents, Gregory and Patricia, were beaming, looking at me with an affection usually reserved for a long-lost son. No, it was more than that. "Devin, you've gone to so much trouble," Patricia gushed as she got in the car, grabbing my hand. "For Vanessa to have found a man like you, she must have done something right in a past life." "That's right," Gregory chimed in from the passenger seat. "We're all family now. If you ever need anything, you just let us know." I smiled and played along. "Mr. and Mrs. Crawford, it's my pleasure. I love Vanessa, and I want to give her the best of everything." Beside me, Vanessa's face was a mask of smug satisfaction. She looped her arm through mine and rested her head on my shoulder, the perfect picture of a doting fiancé. The atmosphere in the car was warm, celebratory. If I didn't know what they were really thinking, I might have been moved by this scene of familial bliss. We didn't go straight to the title company's office. I pulled up in front of a Michelin-starred restaurant. "No rush," I announced. "I made reservations. Let's have a meal to celebrate first." Gregory and Patricia exchanged a look, their smiles widening. "Devin, you think of everything." Once we were seated in a private dining room, I didn't bother with the menus. Instead, I took 5 official-looking property deeds from my briefcase and laid them on the table. The breathing of Vanessa and her parents immediately grew heavy. Their eyes were glued to the documents as if drawn by a magnet. "Devin, Vanessa's voice trembled. I didn't look at her. I looked at Gregory and Patricia. "Mr. Crawford, Mrs. Crawford," I said, standing up and giving them a slight, respectful bow. Vanessa mentioned wanting her name on the deeds. "I've been thinking about it, and I don't think that's enough." I picked up one of the deeds and opened it. I love Vanessa, and I would do anything for her, so I've decided against just adding her name. I paused, scanning the 3 faces now flushed with excitement. I've decided to sign over all 5 properties to Vanessa as an unconditional gift. From this day forward, they will be her sole and separate property. The room was utterly silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Gregory and Patricia stared, mouths agape, their eyes nearly bulging out of their sockets. Vanessa was in a state of shock, unable to believe what she was hearing. "Devin, are you serious?" Patricia stammered. "I've never been more serious." I produced the deed of gift I had prepared. "The contracts are all drawn up. All we have to do is sign, have them notarized, and file them with the city. These 5 condos will belong completely to Vanessa." "Oh, we couldn't possibly accept." "This is too much," Gregory said, his hand already reaching for the contract. "Nothing is too much if it makes Vanessa happy," I said, placing a pen in front of her. "Sign it, Vanessa. This is the security I want to give you, the only kind that matters." Vanessa looked at me, and for a fleeting moment, a flicker of something complex, maybe even guilt, crossed her face. But it was instantly consumed by the tidal wave of her own avarice. She took the pen and, with barely a hesitation, signed her name. The signature was slightly distorted from the force she used. Gregory and Patricia eagerly signed as witnesses. Looking at the 3 names on the contract, I smiled coldly. "Perfect. You just signed your own death warrant." From the restaurant, we went directly to a notary public. The notary, a stern-looking woman, reviewed the multi-million-dollar deed of gift and looked at me over her glasses. "Mr. Hartley, are you absolutely certain you wish to unconditionally gift all of these properties to Miss Crawford as your premarital assets? Once this transfer is complete, you'll have no further legal claim to them. I'm certain, I replied, my voice firm, a look of lovesick devotion plastered on my face. Vanessa clung to my arm, beaming with the radiant glow of a victor. Her parents stood behind us, assuring the notary they're so in love. We, as her parents, fully support this. The notary just shook her head, stamped the documents, and moved on. With a notarized deed in hand, Vanessa's family could barely contain themselves. Devin, let's go to the city register's office now, okay? Vanessa urged. Whatever you want. At the Department of Finance office, the process was smooth. With a notarized gift deed and me as the sole owner, the transfer was processed quickly. When the clerk handed Vanessa the 5 new deeds, her hands were shaking. She opened one and saw her name, Vanessa Crawford, printed clearly under the owner section. Tears of joy streamed down her face. This time it wasn't an act. Oh, Devin, thank you. I love you, she exclaimed, throwing her arms around me and kissing me hard on the cheek. Patricia was so excited she could hardly speak. My God, 5 condos in Manhattan. They're all ours now. Gregory, trying to maintain some composure, cleared his throat and patted my shoulder. Good man, Devin, a good man. We knew you were the one. Don't you worry. Vanessa will take good care of you from now on. I smiled and accepted their hollow praise, silently counting down the hours. It was almost time. By the time we finished, it was getting dark. Let's go out for a real celebration dinner, I suggested. No, no, Patricia said quickly, waving her hand. We're exhausted. Let's just go home and rest. Besides, we need to start planning the wedding. Right, Vanessa added. Let's go to the city clerk's office tomorrow and get our license. Is that okay? She asked, but it sounded more like a command. Okay, I nodded. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll meet you there. It's a date. I drove them back to their apartment building. As I got out of the car, Vanessa clutched the folder with the 5 deeds to her chest like it was the most precious treasure in the world. She didn't even give me her usual goodbye kiss. She just threw a quick, "See you tomorrow," over her shoulder and rushed inside with her parents. I watched them disappear into the building, and the smile instantly vanished from my face, replaced by an icy calm. Back in my car, I took out the hardware wallet containing $20 million. Its cool metal case gleamed faintly in the dim light. Vanessa, you think you just won the world. You have no idea that what you're holding are 5-time bombs, and I'm about to hit the detonator. Tomorrow will be the happiest day of your life and the beginning of your descent into hell. The next morning, I arrived at the city clerk's office right on time. Vanessa and her parents were already there, all dressed in new clothes, looking like they'd just won the lottery. When Vanessa saw me, she gave me a curt nod. The affection from yesterday was gone, replaced by a cold, appraising look. It was as if I was no longer her fiancé but a tool that had served its purpose. Let's go. Let's get this over with, she said impatiently. We took the photo, filled out the forms, and stood before the clerk. The whole thing felt like an assembly line. Vanessa was expressionless through it all, only allowing a faint smirk to touch her lips when the clerk handed us the official marriage license. I looked at her, my heart as still as a frozen lake. Last time in this exact moment, I was so overcome with emotion I almost cried, thinking I held the whole world in my hands. Now, the irony was so thick I could taste it. We stepped out of the building into the harsh morning light. Gregory and Patricia immediately surrounded us. Well, that's that. Finally done, Patricia said with a sigh of relief. Vanessa, make sure you put that somewhere safe, Gregory instructed. Vanessa tossed the license into her designer handbag without a second glance. Then she turned to me, her face a cold, hard mask. All pretense gone. Only undisguised contempt remained. Devin, she used my full name. We need to talk. I feigned shock. Talk about what? We just got married. Married. She let out a short, sharp laugh. Devin, you didn't actually think I would spend my life with someone like you, did you? Patricia chimed in from the side. Exactly. Our Vanessa is beautiful, she's smart. She was never going to settle for you. Gregory cleared his throat, adopting a businesslike tone. Devin, let's just be honest here. Vanessa was only with you for the condos. Now that the property is hers, there's no need to continue this charade. I stared at the grotesque expressions on their faces, not with anger, but with a detached amusement of someone watching a comedy. I continued my act, my face a mask of pain and disbelief. Vanessa, how could you do this to me? I really love you. Love? Vanessa sneered. What's your love worth? Is it worth more than 5 condos in Manhattan? She pulled a document out of her bag and shoved it at me. These are divorce papers. I've already signed them. You sign, and we can go our separate ways. I looked down. The petition for dissolution was simple and clean: no shared marital assets, no shared marital debts, divorce by mutual consent. So efficient. I'm not signing, I shouted, my eyes red like a cornered animal. You lied to me. You're con artists. Sign or don't, I don't care, Vanessa said with a shrug. The condos are already my sole and separate property. They have nothing to do with you. If you don't sign, I'll just file a contested divorce. The outcome will be the same. She looped her arm through her mother's and turned to leave. Oh, by the way, she said, looking back over her shoulder with a malicious grin, I've already found someone else. He's richer than you, better looking, and a hell of a lot smarter. You can just hang on to your pathetic love and grow old alone. With that, she let out a triumphant laugh and walked away with her parents. I stood there, watching them go in the bright sun, their shadows stretched long and distorted like demons. Slowly, a smile spread across my own face. Oh, Vanessa, you think the game is over? No, the game is just beginning. I took out my phone and dialed a number. Marcus, it's Devin Hartley. Devin, my boy, congratulations on the wedding, Marcus's mocking voice came through the line. Cut the crap, Marcus. I'm just calling to inform you that the title holder of the 5 properties used as collateral has been changed. The line went silent for a beat. What did you just say? I said the properties have been transferred to someone else. Hartley, are you trying to screw me over? Marcus roared. Relax, Marcus, I said calmly. Our contract is crystal clear. I borrowed the money from you under my own name with the properties as collateral. The ownership has changed, but the debt and your lien remain. It's just that the person you'll need to collect from is someone else now. Under the law, a property can be sold or transferred even with a lien on it. The lien follows the property, not the owner. The debt holder's right to foreclose remains intact. More importantly, I had my lawyer bury a little gem deep within the legalese of the gift deed I'd signed with Vanessa, the grantee. By accepting this gift, willingly and knowingly assumes all prior and existing debts, liens, encumbrances, and legal liabilities associated with said properties. The font was tiny, buried in a dense paragraph of boilerplate. In their euphoric haze, they hadn't read a single word of the fine print. Now, that little clause was about to become the anvil that would shatter their world. Marcus, the new owner's name is Vanessa Crawford. I'll text you her social security number and contact information. Good luck collecting. I hung up and looked up at the sky. It was a brilliant, cloudless blue. In an hour, I would be on a flight to Zurich, free. And Vanessa, in a prison of her own making, was about to face judgment. Inside the Crawford apartment, champagne fizzed in crystal flutes. A toast to our family's new millionaire, Gregory raised his glass, his face flushed with excitement. Patricia giggled, unable to contain her glee. Millionaire? Don't be so modest. It's tens of millions. And with the way the market is going, it'll be even more soon. Vanessa lounged on the sofa, swirling her champagne, a look of pure triumph on her face. She had finally shed that fool Devin Hartley and gotten everything she'd ever dreamed of. From now on, she was in the upper echelon. She could buy the most expensive handbags, wear limited edition couture, and frequent the most exclusive clubs. She'd already decided to sell 2 of the condos as soon as the divorce was finalized, cash out a few million, and move to Europe to live a life of true luxury. Mom, can you imagine that idiot Devin right now? Probably crying his eyes out in some dump, Vanessa said with a laugh. Serves him right, Patricia spat. A brainless wonder like that deserves to be taken for a ride. The fact that our Vanessa even gave him the time of day was a blessing. Exactly. He got what he deserved, Gregory added. The family roared with laughter, the air thick with smug satisfaction. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who is it? Patricia called out, annoyed at the interruption. Delivery for Ms. Vanessa Crawford. Urgent and certified. Requires a signature from me. Vanessa walked over, a puzzled look on her face. She took the large manila envelope. The return address was a prestigious law firm. Frowning, she tore it open. Inside was a thick stack of documents. The title on the cover page, in bold capitalized letters, jumped out at her, Notice of Demand for Payment on a Debt of $20 million. Vanessa froze. She blinked, sure she was misreading it. She read it again. 20 million. What's that? Patricia asked, leaning over her shoulder. When her eyes landed on the figure, she went pale. What is this? Some kind of scam. Vanessa's hands began to tremble as she read on. The letter detailed how one Devin Hartley had taken out loans totaling $20 million from various private lenders, using his 5 Manhattan properties as collateral. Attached were copies of the loan agreements and the liens filed against the properties. Finally, the letter formally notified the current property owner, Miss Vanessa Crawford, that as the successor of the collateral, she was now responsible for the immediate repayment of the $20 million principal, plus over $2 million in accrued interest. The color drained from Vanessa's face. The documents felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. No, this can't be. It's fake, she whispered. Devin's a nobody. How could he possibly get a $20 million loan? Just then, the doorbell rang again, this time with a series of sharp, insistent presses. Gregory pulled the door open to find several men in expensive suits standing in the hallway. Leading them was the smiling, accountant-like figure of Marcus Brennan. Good afternoon. Is Miss Vanessa Crawford home? Marcus asked with a pleasant smile that didn't reach his cold, dead eyes. Who are you? Gregory asked, suddenly on guard. We represent Mr. Hartley's creditors, Marcus said, stepping past him into the apartment. His gaze immediately locked on Vanessa, who was standing paralyzed by the table. We're here to discuss the repayment plan with the new property owner. Behind him, 2 large, imposing men entered, filling the small living room with a palpable sense of menace. The festive scent of champagne was instantly replaced by an atmosphere of cold dread. Clang! The champagne flute slipped from Vanessa's hand and shattered on the floor, the pink liquid spreading like a pool of blood. Repay. Repay what? I don't know what you're talking about, Vanessa's voice was shrill with panic. Marcus ignored her outburst, calmly taking a seat on the sofa and pulling another document from his briefcase. Miss Crawford, please, let's not get emotional. We're here to solve a problem, not create one. He slid the document across the table. It was a copy of the deed of gift. This is the agreement you signed with Mr. Hartley. We had our legal team pull a copy from the city's records. He tapped a finger on a single underlined sentence. The grantee, by accepting this gift, willingly and knowingly assumes all prior and existing debts, liens, encumbrances, and legal liabilities associated with said properties. Marcus read the line out loud, slowly and clearly. Miss Crawford, it's in black and white. You signed it. That $20 million debt. It's yours now. Vanessa's legs gave out, and she collapsed to the floor. Her mind was a whirlwind of white noise. Debt. $20 million in debt. How? How could this be happening? No, it's not real. It was Devin. Devin borrowed the money. Why should I have to pay it back? She screamed. That's right. The debt belongs to Devin Hartley. You go find him. This has nothing to do with us, Patricia shrieked, rushing forward like a cornered animal. One of Marcus's men simply took a step toward her and gave her a cold stare. Patricia froze, the words dying in her throat. Oh, we'd love to find Devin, Marcus said casually. Unfortunately, his flight to Zurich landed about an hour ago. He's gone, so that leaves you, Miss Crawford. After all, you own the properties now, and according to the law, we have the right to seize our collateral. Gregory, his mind racing, tried to bluff. You're lying. These condos belong to my daughter now. They're personal property. You can't touch them. Is that so? Marcus smiled. Mr. Crawford, you seem to have a misunderstanding of how property law works. A lien takes precedence over ownership. It doesn't matter how many times the property changes hands. As long as the debt isn't paid, our right to foreclose remains. So, you have two options. You can wire us $22 million today, and we'll walk away, or we file a foreclosure action with the court and have the property seized and auctioned off. Marcus paused, a cruel glint in his eye. Of course, the 5 condos have a market value of about $10 million. At a foreclosure auction, they'll go for even less. Even after we sell them all, it won't be enough to cover the principal. You, Miss Crawford, will still be on the hook for the remaining $10 or $12 million. Gregory was so furious he was shaking, unable to form a coherent sentence. Vanessa finally snapped. She scrambled up from the floor and lunged at Marcus. I'll kill you. You're all thieves, liars. Before she could get close, the 2 large men grabbed her, holding her fast. Miss Crawford, I suggest you calm down, Marcus said, standing and straightening his suit. Our patience is limited. I'll give you 3 days to get the money. 3 days. If we don't see the funds in our account by then, we proceed with legal action. And I assure you, that will be far less pleasant than this little visit. He walked to the door, then turned back to look at Vanessa one last time. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the interest on this loan accrues daily. Every day you delay costs you another $10,000. Good luck. Enjoy your new life as a millionaire. He and his men left. The apartment was deathly silent, the only sound Vanessa's ragged, desperate breaths. Suddenly, she let out a piercing shriek. Tearing away from her parents, she scrambled to the table, grabbed the 5 new property deeds, and began ripping them to shreds. It's not real. It's all fake. I don't want it. I don't want it. The red-bordered paper fluttered down around her like bloody snow. Gregory and Patricia stared in horror, the blood draining from their faces. They thought they had struck gold. They had no idea they were standing at the mouth of a volcano that was about to erupt. 3 days passed in a blur of panic. The Crawford family did everything they could. They consulted a lawyer who reviewed the contracts and simply shook his head, telling them they had 0 chance of winning in court. The assumption of liability clause in the gift deed and the legally filed liens created a perfect, inescapable legal trap. Vanessa was, without a doubt, the sole party responsible for the debt. They tried to file a police report for fraud. The police came, listened to the story, and told them it was a civil dispute, not a criminal matter, and advised them to handle it through the courts. They tried to quietly sell one of the condos. The first real estate agent they called did a title search and immediately informed them that the properties had multiple liens filed against them and were legally frozen. They couldn't be sold. Every avenue was a dead end. Despair washed over the family, drowning them. The shock and rage soon curdled into bitter recriminations. This is all your fault. If you weren't so greedy, so obsessed with getting his property, we would never be in this mess, Gregory screamed, pointing a shaking finger at Vanessa. My fault. Vanessa shrieked back through her tears. Who is it that kept telling me what a great catch that idiot was? Who pushed me to do this? Now that it's all gone wrong, you're blaming me. How dare you talk back to us? We told you to land a rich husband, not to come home with a $20 million debt. You're a curse on this family, Patricia yelled, slapping and scratching at her daughter. The apartment became a war zone. The screaming and fighting were constant. On the 4th day, a process server delivered the official court summons and a notice of asset freeze. Staring at the court-sealed documents, the family finally, completely fell apart. Marcus was making good on his promise. The legal process was swift. The properties were seized, appraised, and scheduled for a foreclosure auction. In the end, the 5 condos that were the foundation of Vanessa's millionaire dream were sold as a single lot for a total of $9.6 million. After court fees and other expenses, the money went directly to Marcus and his partners. But it was a drop in the bucket. Vanessa was still legally responsible for a deficiency judgment of over $12 million. Soon after, the court issued an order freezing all her assets and garnishing her wages. She was officially entered into the national database as a judgment debtor, a person with a ruined credit score, blacklisted from receiving any form of loan. Her name and social security number were now a permanent red flag in the financial system. She couldn't fly. She couldn't take a train. She couldn't stay in a nice hotel. She couldn't buy property or a car. Her bank accounts were frozen. Any money deposited into her Venmo or PayPal accounts above a tiny state-mandated living allowance was immediately seized. Overnight, she went from a woman who had the world at her fingertips to a social pariah, a ghost in the system. Her name and photo were even posted on a public notices website that listed local court judgments. Every neighbor she had known her whole life would see it and whisper, "Hey, isn't that the Crawford girl? I heard she scammed some guy out of his condos and ended up with millions in debt. Yeah, that's her. She always seemed so sweet. Guess you never know. She got what she deserved. Greed will get you every time." The whispers were like knives stabbing at Vanessa from all directions. She stopped leaving the apartment, locking herself in her room. Her once perfect makeup was gone, replaced by a gaunt, sallow face. She couldn't look at her phone, which was constantly blowing up with calls and texts from collection agencies. She couldn't face her parents, whose eyes now held nothing but hatred and disgust for her. The home had become a living hell. The final blow landed a week later. Since Vanessa had no assets or income to satisfy the judgment, the court began looking at other ways to collect. While they couldn't seize her parents' apartment, as it was their primary residence, they could target their income. An order was issued to garnish half of Gregory and Patricia's monthly pension and social security payments to go toward their daughter's debt. Their retirement income was slashed, leaving them with barely enough to survive. That news was the spark that ignited the final inferno. "Vanessa, you parasite. You've ruined our lives," Patricia screamed, bursting into Vanessa's room like a madwoman, clawing and hitting her. Gregory followed, kicking Vanessa so hard she fell to the floor. "We don't have a daughter. Get out of our house. Get out." They dragged her out of the apartment, screaming and hitting her the whole way. She was wearing nothing but thin pajamas, without a phone or a dollar to her name. The door slammed shut, and the deadbolt clicked. She pounded on the door, sobbing. "Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. Please let me in. We don't know you. Go die in the street for all we care," came her mother's venomous reply from inside. Doors opened down the hallway. Neighbors stared at the pathetic, weeping girl on the floor. Humiliated, Vanessa scrambled to her feet and fled, their looks of pity and disgust burning into her back. The late-night New York air was cold enough to steal her breath. Vanessa wandered the streets like a ghost with nowhere to go. Everything she once had, her beauty, her youth, her family, her future, was gone. All that was left was a $12 million debt and the identity of a social outcast. She found herself by the East River, staring at the glittering lights of the skyline. That glittering world had once felt so close, so attainable. Now it was just a cruel joke at her expense. She thought of Devin, the men she had played for a fool, the men she had called pathetic. He wasn't pathetic at all. He was brilliant, calculating, and ruthless. She had underestimated him completely, and now she was paying the price. The icy wind whipped her thin pajamas against her skin, but she felt nothing. The numbness inside her was far colder than any winter night. She stood at the edge of the railing, staring down at the dark water below. It would be so easy. One step, one moment, and all of this crushing weight would be gone. But even in her darkest moment, something stopped her. Maybe it was cowardice. Maybe it was a stubborn refusal to give Devin the satisfaction of knowing he'd destroyed her so completely. Or maybe, deep down, there was still a tiny spark of survival instinct left. She turned away from the railing and walked back into the city, her bare feet bleeding on the cold pavement. She had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, and a debt that would follow her for the rest of her life. But she was still breathing, still standing. Somewhere across the ocean, in a quiet cafe in Zurich, Devin sat by a window with a cup of coffee. The hardware wallet was safely stored in a Swiss bank deposit box. The $20 million was secure, untraceable, and entirely his. He looked out at the snow-covered Alps and felt nothing but a profound emptiness. Revenge was supposed to feel satisfying. He had imagined this moment countless times, the sweet taste of justice, the closure he'd been desperate for. But now that it was done, all he felt was hollow. His parents were still gone. The life they'd built together was still destroyed. No amount of vengeance could bring them back or erase the pain of losing them. He thought of Vanessa, wandering the streets in her thin pajamas, broken and alone. In his past life, she had destroyed him without a second thought. Now, he had done the same to her. They were even, in the coldest, most brutal way possible. But being even didn't feel like winning. It just felt like drowning in a different kind of hell. Devin took a sip of his coffee and watched the snow fall outside. He had his freedom, his wealth, and his revenge. He had everything he'd fought for. So why did it all feel so meaningless? In the end, perhaps that was the real tragedy. Revenge had consumed them both, leaving nothing but ashes and regrets. Vanessa had gambled everything for wealth and lost it all. Devin had sacrificed his humanity for justice and found only emptiness. The snow continued to fall, burying the past beneath layers of white. But some things, Devin realized, could never truly be buried. Some wounds never healed. Some debts could never be repaid, no matter how much you tried. He set down his cup and stood to leave, pulling his coat tight against the cold. Behind him, the cafe door closed with a soft click. Ahead of him stretched a future without purpose, without meaning, without the fire of revenge to keep him warm. And somewhere across the ocean, Vanessa Crawford sat huddled in a homeless shelter, staring at the stained ceiling, wondering if she would ever feel warm again. The 5 property deeds that had once been her ticket to paradise were now ashes in a trash can. The $20 million debt hung around her neck like a millstone, dragging her deeper into the abyss with every passing day. 2 lives, both destroyed by greed and vengeance. 2 souls, forever bound by the choices they'd made. In the end, there were no winners, only survivors trying to make sense of the ruins they'd created.